sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhan saranam gacchami. Dhamman saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhamman saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhamman saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, when we learn Dhamma, so this is the Dhamma sermon. So I am teaching, you are listening. Okay? So at the end of the program, you should retain something. You should have something with you that you have actually taken, so that you can incorporate that into your life. In a way, it changes your life. So that is what practicing Dhamma is about. The change, the development, the progress of what? The wholesome aspect of life. So for you to do that, the first and foremost thing is for you to retain what you learn. If you are unable to retain what you learned today, then it's going to be a waste. Buddha taught in a particular sutta that there are 3 types of people who listen to the Dhamma. And all of you today listening to the Dhamma would definitely fall into those 3 categories. One of those categories. It's up to you to decide which category you are going to fit into. Okay, so I'll mention the 3 categories. Buddha said, a monk could teach Dhamma as taught by the Buddha clearly and comprehensively with all the qualities of the Dhamma. And the listener, like yourself, the first type of listener, Buddha used the word avakujjapanya. Avakujjapanya means his wisdom is turned upside down. His wisdom is turned upside down. How so? Buddha said, a person would listen to the Dhamma sermon, and while he is actually listening to the Dhamma sermon preached by the monk, he does not contemplate and pay attention. He does not contemplate upon it. Doesn't listen to the Dhamma sermon mindfully and doesn't pay due attention. And also once he rises, that means after you leave this place, after listening to the Dhamma sermon, he does not reflect upon what he learned, he or she learned. So he doesn't retain anything. Buddha said, he is avakujjapanya. That means his wisdom is turned upside down. And Buddha gave a nice simile to that. It is as if a pot is turned upside down. What would happen if you turn a pot upside down and you keep pouring water? Would the water ever be filled? Would the pot ever be filled?
Oh, Bhante.
Likewise, it's the same. The same applies to you. If you do not concentrate, if you do not focus, if you are not mindful about what is taught, then there's nothing you are going to get from this. Then Buddha said there's a second person. The person with lap-like wisdom. What is lap-like wisdom, dear friends? Imagine a person is sitting down Okay, first I'll tell. Lap-like wisdom is this person when he's listening to the Dhamma sermon, when he's here and now seated and listening to the Dhamma sermon, he pays attention. He is mindful and he retains what is taught. But once he rests from the seated position and get along with his normal days, he forgets. He does not reflect upon what he was learned. He leaves it behind. So that is the way, said the Buddha. Buddha said he's got a lap-like wisdom. What is lap-like wisdom? And Buddha gave a beautiful simile. Think of a person seated. Okay? He is now seated. And he has some edible things on his lap. Say food. So it is whatever drinks, things that a person would eat. But when he rises from the seated position, what would happen to all the things that were on his lap? On his or her lap? They falls down. And once edible things are fallen to the ground, can you make use of them anymore? You can't eat them. Likewise, if you do not contemplate upon the Dhamma once you leave this seated position, if you don't reflect upon the sermon and the Dhamma facts you actually learn, then again it's going to be a waste. You will not be able to change your life. So that is the person with the lap-like wisdom. And the third person, Buddha said, he's got a broad wisdom, Putupanya, the Pali term. The person with the broad wisdom, he is very wise. When he's here seated learning to the Dhamma, he pays attention, he's mindful, and he's very focused. And when he also leaves the place, he again reflects upon the Dhamma facts he actually learned. And he put them into practice. Buddha said, this is the person I praise. This is the person who will make use of this Dhamma to eradicate all the suffering. And actually, in the end, achieve Nibbana. So, all of you are also going to fall into one of these three categories. So, it's up to you to decide who you are going to, which box you are going to fit in. It's up to you, okay? So, pay attention here and now, and also once you have left, also think about what you learned today and try to put it into practice in your daily life. So the sutta we are today learning is a very beautiful sutta. It's Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses. The name of the sutta is Vammika Sutta. What's the name? Vammika Sutta. So the meaning of the Vammika means the ant hill. So the name of the sutta is in English, the ant hill. So this is how it so happened that on one occasion the blessed one Buddha was living in Savatthi when this all happened. And Venerable Kumara Kassapa, he was residing in the blind man's grove. And at night, approached this venerable monk, Kumara Kassapa. And having approached this Deva, having approached the Bhante, Venerable Kumara Kassapa, is not an Arahant, just a trainee monk then. He approached the monk and he pointed at the body of the monk and said, "Monk, this is an anthill that fumes by night and flames by day." So as you know, that is the topic of the Dhamma talk today. Our life that fumes by night and flames by day. So he pointed to the monk, the Deva, and said, this anthill, so this body of ours is an anthill that fumes by night and flames by day. And then the Deva goes on to tell a riddle. So what is the riddle? He says, there is this anthill, and there is a Brahmin, and there is a wise person. There is the anthill, there is the Brahmin, and the wise person. So the Deva says, Bhikkhu, this anthill flames by night and flames by day. Deal with the tool, though wise one. Wise one, take a tool into your hand and dig with it. Delving with the tool, once you now think, what would you use to delve into, dig into an anthill? Say a garden shovel. So this person, following the advice of the Brahmin, the wise person, digs the anthill. He digs the anthill and then he comes across, when he's digging, he comes across first a bar. He comes across a door bar. So then he is advised to remove the door bar and keep on digging. Then he comes across a tortoise. This is all in the anthill, remember? Then he comes across a tortoise. Then the Brahmin again advises the wise person, remove the tortoise, throw it away, and keep on digging. Then you comes across a toad. Wise person, remove the toad, cast it away, and keep on digging, says the Brahmin. So the wise person again digging with the tool. He further digs and then he comes across a forked road. A fork road. You know what a fork road is? When you are moving on a path on a road, suddenly the road divides into two. That is called a fork road. So the Brahmi said, when you find a fork road, again cast it away and keep on digging. Then when you keep on digging, that person, the wise person who is digging the anthill, comes across a sieve. What is a sieve? A strainer. Comes across a strainer. And the Brahmin advises the wise person, throw away the sieve. So the wise person throws away the sieve, and with the tool, say a garden shovel, he keeps on digging. Then he comes across a tortoise. First it is a toad, now it is a tortoise, another animal. So cast away the tortoise also and keep on digging. Keep on digging, says the wise person. Then when he keep on digging, then he comes across an axe and a block. So the Brahmin advised the wise person, cast away the axe and block and keep on digging. Then he comes across what? He comes across a lump of meat. Cast away the lump of meat and keep on digging. And then the wise person comes across a Naga serpent, the huge Naga serpent. Then he is advised by the Brahmin wise person, leave the Naga serpent. Let it be. Do not harm the Naga serpent. Honor the Naga serpent. So this was the riddle. This was the riddle taught by the Deva to the monk, Venerable Kumara Kassapa. And thereafter, the Deva goes on to say, Bhikkhu, you should go to the Blessed One and ask him about this riddle. As the Blessed One tell you, so you should remember it. He said the Blessed One will tell you about the riddle and he will explain it. And he says, Bhikkhu, other than the Tathagata, or a disciple of the Tathagata, or one who has learned it from them, I see no one in this world with its gods, its Maras and its Brahmas, in this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its princes and its people who could explain this riddle in a satisfying way. So only the Buddha, a disciple of the Buddha, or a person who can learn from them can solve this riddle. So Venerable Arahant Kumara Kassapa, now say if something like this happened to you, the Deva comes to you late at night and tells something like this, a riddle. How do you feel? You will be shocked. You will not be able to, you will be overwhelmed. Because we are not so mindful, our mind is not strong enough to cope with such a situation. We will get excited. When you get excited or when you get scared, can you retain something in your mind? No. You can't focus on what's going on. You might even faint if a Deva suddenly approaches in front of you. Because our mental strength, the mindfulness is not enough, not developed to cope with such a situation. But see, that monk was very calm in such a situation. He not only retained the riddle, he memorized it then and there. And next day he approaches the Buddha, goes to the Blessed One, and actually tells him about this. All of the riddle, and he breaks it down to 15 questions without missing any point. So what are the 15 questions? He goes to the Buddha, tells of this incident, and says, Venerable Sir, Blessed One, what is the anthill that is fuming by night and flaming by day? What is the Brahmin? Who is the Brahmin? And who is the wise person? What is the tool that the wise person digs with? What does it mean to keep digging? What is the doba? What is the toad? What is the fork rod? What is the seal? What is the tortoise? What does it resemble? What does the axe and block resemble? What does the lump of meat means? And who is the Nagasar? So all in all, there are 15 questions. He retained the narrative, the riddle, and he breaks it down to 15 questions. So how smart is that? How mindful? That is why we have to learn that all the time people have declined in their qualities, the strength of the mind, the skills of the mind. That is why nowadays people find it very difficult to actually practice the Dhamma, to live according to the Dhamma, because we have all the time, sadly, lost good wholesome qualities and skills of the mind. So anyhow, we have to bit and bit, again, try to develop these qualities. But if we do practice the teachings as taught by the Buddha, we have a chance to again foster these noble qualities within us. Then now, Buddha explains the riddle. Okay? Buddha says, Bhikkhu, the anthill is a symbol for this body. This body of ours is the anthill that is made of, that is consisting of the four great elements. What are the four great elements? Four great elements. The earth element, the water element, the heat element, and the air element. So our body is made up of these four elements and procreated by a mother and father. We are born of our mother and father, and we are built on food. We live on food, say the Buddha, and this body is subject to impermanence, to be worn and rubbed away, to dissolution and disintegration. This body that is of such nature is the anthill, said the Buddha. So have you seen an anthill? An anthill has holes, many holes. There are holes in an anthill. Creatures would creep into the anthill. Snakes would creep in. Rats would creep into the anthill. Iguanas would creep into the anthill. Likewise, into our life, that is anthill, through these six senses, many unwholesome things creep in. If we do not restrain our six senses, our mind is sullied by advances defilements because we have failed to restrain our senses. That is why Buddha always encouraged us to restrain our six senses. Buddha said, this eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, they have recourse in mindfulness. They have recourse in mind. The five senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, has recourse in the mind, and the mind in recourse has recourse in mindfulness. So mindfulness is the gatekeeper for the six senses. So mindfully he guards the halls of the anthill and does not let creatures invade his life that is going to defile the mind. So another nature of the anthill is it is easily perishable. Likewise, this body of ours, it can easily get damaged. Too much heat can kill us. Cold can kill us. And virus, as you see, the pandemic, it's killing people like flies. So that is the nature of this body. It's so very brittle and something that we cannot exercise control over. That is something we have to understand. There is a lot of maintenance to keep this body going. We have to eat daily, we have to be healthy, we have to consume healthy stuff, and we have to take medication every now and then. If we meet with an accident or we get sick, we need saline, we need blood transfusion. So there is a lot of maintenance. Think of your daily routine. The moment you get up until you go to sleep, you are maintaining the body. You have to wash, brush, clean, eat. All of these things you do for the body, still one day you will have to leave this body, and this body of yours will perish and become one with the soil in the earth. That is the reality. So Buddha wants you to think of this reality. Think of it as the anthill. That is so very, is it something that is worth the anthill? Can you consider it to be something of wealth? Something that is important? No. Likewise, this body that we are attached to, that we love and desire, is something we leave behind. Something that is perishable. So we have to contemplate upon this true nature of the body. So then Buddha goes on to explain what one thinks and what it means to be that fuming by night. This anthill of ours is fuming by night, and it flames by day. What does it mean to fuming by night? Buddha explains what one thinks and ponders by night based upon one's actions during the day is the fuming by night. That means you think of the things you did during the day by body, speech, and mind, and you contemplate upon the things, the good and the bad you did. There can be regrets of what you did, and there can be things that triggered anger within yourself, or lust, or desire. And people find this very difficult to have a good night's sleep. That is why it's such a huge case nowadays, that sleep disorder. Many people can't sleep. That is why we have many apps and programs to help you sleep. And people even go to doctors to take meditation to sleep, medication. So why? Because they are fuming by night. They are reflecting upon the things. They have not restrained their six senses during the day. And then their mind is sullied by defilements, overwhelmed by defilements, greed, anger, and delusion, and all the secondary defilements. And they cannot get a good night's sleep. The anthill is fuming by night. That's the meaning. Now reflect upon your life. Haven't there been such days that you found it very difficult to take a good night's sleep? And even once you get up, there's a hangover. You feel exhausted. And then again the day begins, flames by the day. How is that? Buddha says, it means flames by the day means the actions one undertakes during the day by body, speech, and mind, after thinking and pondering by night, is flaming by day. That means in the night, then you plan the tomorrow's day. I will do this and that. I will take revenge from that person. I will lie, I will cheat. You plan and scheme things, good and bad. And that things, then you act upon them the moment you get up next day. And that is flaming by day. And your mind is overwhelmed with greed, anger, and delusion. And you do evil actions that fuel the five hindrances and bring suffering again and again. That is what it means that the life is flaming by day. The anthill is flaming by day. So we should always be mindful of our actions by body, speech, and mind, and try to focus on the fostering good qualities. Or else we will never douse the fire. We will never put out the fire in this life, which is an anthill. So reflect upon your life and see whether it's flaming by night and flaming by day. It is. because next we'll understand what are the things, the underlying conditions that actually keep this fire kindled, keep this fire ignited, keep this fire burning without it giving extinguished. So we'll learn that in next when we discuss the sutta. Then Buddha goes on to say the Brahmin is, then we talked of a Brahmin in the riddle. No, the Brahmin is a Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened. So here the Brahmin is the Tathagata, the Buddha, the Blessed One. And the wise person is the symbol for the bhikkhu in training. So we are all trainees. Anyone who have not attained arahantship are trainees. The stream the one who is packed in the path of stream entry and the stream entrant. The one who is packed in the path to one's returner and the one's returner. The one who is packed in is practicing the path to non-returner, become a non-returner and the non-returner. They are all trainees. We say seeker. Only the arahants are seeker. So here the wise person is a trainee disciple. So then we know who now what is the anthill is, we know who is the Brahmin, we know who the wise person. Next in the riddle we have to find out what is the tool that is used to dig into the anthill. The garden shovel or whatever tool the wise person is using. Buddha says the tool is a symbol for normal wisdom. Noble wisdom is the wisdom you acquire by learning to the teachings of the Buddha. So only a disciple of the Buddha can have this noble wisdom. No one else in this world possesses this wisdom. Because for you to have this wisdom, you should have learned it from the teachings of the Buddha. So that is why we are very fortunate, because we have the tool. The tool to dig up the anthill, that is our life, and to break it down and to rid it of the defilements. We have the ways and means. We have the wisdom thanks to the Buddha. We just have to learn and put it to practice. So the garden shovel, the tool, is symbol for noble wisdom. Then there is the act of digging. Buddha says the delving or the act of digging is a symbol for arousing energy. Energy means effort. So the person has to put effort to dig into the anthill. Likewise, to practice the noble eightfold path, you have to have the fourfold effort, fourfold striving. What is that? You have to strive to was to stifle unwholesome says that have not yet arisen. Not let them arise. And also you have to develop new wholesome qualities. Also whatever qualities, good wholesome qualities you possess, you have to further develop them. That is the fourfold striving. So with regard to the striving, Buddha have said you have to have, in Pali we say Arambhaka dhatu. That means you have to always begin striving. It has to be there. It has to be always, you have to put, because it is impermanent. You might put effort at a given moment, then the next moment you lose it. So again and again, you have to keep on killing the effort, keep on recharging. Again and again, you have to arouse effort. That is called Arambhaka dhatu. Then Nikkama dhatu. That means you have to keep on, it has to be a continuous effort. Nikkama dhatu. You have to arouse effort, then you have to prolong the effort. It has to be continuous effort. Then we call Parakkama dhatu, that means it should be very strong. Your effort must be a strong effort. You have to be committed to the practice. Or else you cannot develop the fourfold striving. That is the act of digging. So there is in the Milinda Panya, we come across a question by the King Milinda to Arahant Nagasena. There in that, the King Milinda asked the Arahant Nagasena, Bhante, please tell me, Do you have to always have continuous effort, or is it enough if you arouse effort then and there when an unwholesome state arise?
Anyway, so that is compound style.
So we have to have continuous effort in that way. So in this case, the question by King Milinda was, should you always have continuous effort that is aroused every time when an unwholesome state arises? Or is it enough if you arouse effort then and there when an unwholesome state crops into the mind, crops up in the mind? So Arahanta Nagasena asked the king, is it when you get hungry that you go plow the field? That you go to the field and grow actually the seeds or the grains? The king said, no, I do it beforehand. So when I get hungry, I have rice with me to prepare the food. So likewise, you have to have effort aroused. All the time effort should be there to abandon the unwholesome. Or else it's not going to work. And also Arahant Nagasen asked him, is it when you get thirsty that you go and dig a well to quench your thirst? No. The king said, no, I dig wells beforehand. So I have water with me when I'm thirsty. Likewise, the effort you put into the practice should be there all the time. So it becomes something that is ingrained. So then and there, when the unwholesome states arise in your mind, you can deal with them, or else it is going to overwhelm you. So that is why it is very important that you have to keep on digging with the tool without stopping. So you can clear the clutter in the anthill and put out the fire. So next Buddha goes on to explain the door bar is a symbol for ignorance. The door bar is a symbol for ignorance. Nowadays we don't come across door bars, but in the time of the Buddha, they didn't have locks and keys, it seems. They would close the door and they would put a bar across the door so no one can open it, because it is barred by the door bar. You understand? So likewise, our path is barred by ignorance. So that is the first obstacle we come across in the training, the ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is not knowing the Four Noble Truths. That is the first obstacle. What are the Four Nobles? That we are not aware of suffering, we are not aware of the cause of suffering, we are not aware of the cessation of suffering, and we have not realized for ourselves that the Noble Eightfold Path is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So not in this way, not have realized the Four Noble Truths. That is the ignorance. And Buddha said there is nothing much darker than the darkness of ignorance. It is pitch dark. Life that is consumed by ignorance is far more darker than anything in this world, said Buddha. So the arising of a Buddha to this world is, Buddha said, like the arising of the sun and the moon. It is the sun and moon that spread light to this world. Buddha said, if there is no sun and moon, then there is no day and night. There is no talk of months, years, or seasons. Likewise, when there is no the teachings of the Buddha, there is no talk of the Four Noble Truths. And the people of the world, they dwell in ignorance. They dwell consumed by ignorance. They dwell in darkness, said the Buddha. The arising of the Buddha to this world is like the arising of the sun and moon. So the darkness is dispelled and the light spreads in the world. Likewise, when the Buddha arises to this world, he teaches us the Four Noble Truths. And the ignorance is dispelled from the lives of the people. The light of the Dhamma spreads throughout the world. That is what happens with the arising of the Buddha. That is the sole purpose. The Buddha arises in this world to teach us the Four Noble Truths and to rid us of our ignorance. So likewise, the first barrier is the ignorance, not knowing the four-noble truths. The doba in the little book is ignorance. Is that clear? So next Buddha goes on to explain to Venerable Kumara Kassapa. Here the thought is a signal for anger, and they are coupled with despair, misery, and gloom. And he said, because when we get angry, do you feel happy? No, you feel stressed out. There is a gloom, there is darkness, there is misery, because you suffer a lot. There is sorrow, there is lamenting with anger. And there is always coupled with darkness and bad thoughts, evil thoughts. You can't even sleep well when you're angry. Say you go to sleep, you struggle to sleep. And next day when you get up in the morning, the first thing is that comes to your mind is the thing or the person that caused you anger. And you feel hollow inside. That is the nature of anger. That is why here it says, the despair, the misery, there's the gloom due to anger is the thought. Throughout the thought means abandon anger and keep on digging. So we have to throw out the bar, that is abandon ignorance. We have to cast it away, that means we have to give up anger. It's a small thought that is in the mind, but it grows upon you. That's how anger crops up in the mind. It's so subtle at times, but gradually it grows and it turns into hatred and it can consume you. And you most of anger. So you have to be focused and identify when there is anger and nip it in the bud before it consumes you. Or else it can ruin your life. So in this way, that is why this thought grows gradually. And it keeps in hiding. It jumps from one place to the other. Likewise, anger is within you in your mind. Do not foster your anger. Do not fuel your anger. You have to be mindful. You have to understand when you get angry, what are the factors that trigger the anger. There are two things that trigger the anger. What is that? The sign, the thing, the incident, what you hear, heard, or it can be a person, it can be animate or inanimate. There is a sign that triggered the anger, and also there is unwise consideration that fuels the anger. If you take out one of these aspects, then anger subsides. It is very important that you understand these are the two factors that is conducive to anger, that give rise to anger. What are those? The sign that is attached to anger and unwise consideration. So if you replace unwise consideration with wise consideration, that is loving kindness, thoughts of loving kindness, then anger subsides. How do you change the trigger? If it is a person, you think of something else without thinking of that person. You can focus on his good qualities because every person has some good in them. So you focus on the good, not the negative aspects, because our mind has the nature of fault finding nature in our mind. You have to give that up and focus on the good in people. So you don't get angry. You become compassionate because we have a common ground. What is that? We are all subject to aging, sickness, and death. So find the common ground and practice forgiveness. So you will not be angry towards anyone in this world. So next, Buddha goes on to tell us the fork road. No? First we came across the bar, you cast it away, which is ignorance. Then he came across the thought, which is, what is the thought? What we discussed just now, the anger. Then he comes across the fork road. Fork road, Buddha says, is the symbol for doubt. Fork road is a junction in which one road becomes two divergent roads. So when you are walking on a path, when you come across the point where the road divides into two roads, then there's dilemma. Which road I should take? If you are not sure of the path, which road should I take? So that is doubt. So in the practice also, you may doubt yourself at times. Is this the right thing I am doing? Would this, I am going to succeed in this way? So when doubt comes, you should keep doubt aside. Because doubt in its own right is a hindrance. It's an obstacle. It blocks your progress in the past. What you should do is keep aside doubt and keep on practice. You overcome doubt by confidence. Confidence in what? Confidence in the teachings of the Buddha. Say you want to get from point A to point B, but you have never gone to point B and you don't know the way. A person tells you, okay, you take this route, you turn right there, you turn left here, take this bridge, cross over the bridge. Likewise, someone tells you the path. If you don't believe in that person, would you continue the journey? You would go a few feet and you say a few kilometers and say, look, this is not going to work. I will never go get to point B. You give up. Likewise, if you have doubt in the practice, you will practice for some time and say, this is not going working, the meditation is not progressing, I find it difficult to practice mindfulness. So you give up. And then you start looking for teachers, looking for arahants, people who would save you. Why? Because you have doubt. You keep aside the doubt and you have to believe in the teachings of the Buddha. And when you keep on learning the suttas again and again, all these doubts are clarified. Because all, yeah.
I have a question, Swaminasa. When the doba is taken away, the doubt go away with too? The vichikicha?
Like this is you mean this is not something like if you in the simile in the riddle, you should not think that okay, this is once you get this, get rid of the doba, the next problem is okay. Here, likewise, it's not, don't think it in a continuous pattern. These all of these things, this clearing the cutter, putting out the fire, it happens like simultaneously. You have to focus on every aspect, okay? Just because you just come across the doba doesn't mean that if you actually realize the Four Noble Truth and become a stream entry, you give up the doubt then and there. So, but in this schedule, you have to think of every aspect that you have to practice simultaneously. Is that clear? Step by step, man. Okay. So all these aspects have to be dealt with in simultaneously. So that means within the practice, when you practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we actually abandon all this. So this is the order in where the Buddha have created Sutta. So here the doubt, in a sense, as we discussed, you should focus on the teachings of the Buddha, because these teachings actually, they belong to the Buddha. These are the Buddha's teachings. There is a very nice simile to this in a book by Guru Gomi, a great scholar in Sri Lanka. In this book, he mentions this is like all the teachings. Say if a person becomes a stream entrant, the credit should always go to the Buddha. While Buddha is the one who taught. Buddha is the one who taught the Dhamma. He only put the Dhamma into practice and he reaped the benefits. And I am here teaching you the teachings of the Buddha. So he used this nice simile. There is a person who takes a royal decree. Okay, the king's message, that is called the royal decree. He gets this message and he goes to the village. And a person, the messenger, king's messenger, rides to the village. And from the village people, amongst the village people, he would find a person who can read the royal decree. And that person who is literate enough to read the royal decree would read it. And the people then praise him. Oh, you are the one who read us the royal decree. Likewise, all the monks, Venerable Arahant Sariputta, all the other Arahants, all the disciples of the Buddha, we just read you out the royal decree. That is the Dhamma. The Dhamma belongs to the Buddha, the king's words. So these are the Buddha's words. Always the credit should go to the Buddha. So don't go looking for arahants in this world. People always look for teachers, thinking they would save me. But here we have the solution to all our problems. That is the teachings of the Buddha. Because once a monk from Austria had come to meet our teacher whenever Kiribati Jnanananda Thero. So this monk is from Austria. He had actually ordained in Thailand. He came to our teacher and said, whenever Jnanananda Thero, I am looking for the best teacher in the world. So our teacher, my teacher, had taken him to a room, taken him by the hand and guided him to a room and showed him the cupboard where the Tripitaka books are kept. But he didn't understand that the books, the Tripitaka, the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is the greatest teacher we would ever have. And Buddha once taught us in a sutta, it is because these people who have not realized the Four Noble Truths, that they go from one person to other, looking, this person would save me, this person would save me, this person would be my savior. No. The Dhamma is going to be a savior. So believe in the Dhamma so you will not have doubt. So the fork road here resembles the doubt. Then Buddha goes on to explain, the sieve is a symbol for the 5 hindrances. Sieve or the strainer here is the 5 hindrances. What are the 5 hindrances? The desire for sensual pleasure, ill will, then the lazy and lethargic state, sloth and torpor, doubt, and the restlessness and reposeness of the mind. Desire for sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness as remorse, and doubt. These are the 5 hindrances. And 5 hindrances, what they do is you hinder your progress in the path. That's why they are called the 5 hindrances. And think, what happens when you put water into a strainer? It pours through because it's a strainer. It can't retain water. Likewise, Buddha says, likewise, here what you should understand is the mind that is overwhelmed by the 5 hindrances cannot retain wholesome things, cannot retain good things. You can't develop wholesome states in a mind that is fueled by the hindrances. A mind that have abandoned the hindrances, that is what you do by samatha meditation, calm meditation. You abandon the hindrances, you subdue the hindrances. So that mind is like a vessel, a bowl without cracks or crevices or holes. So you can fill water into that bowl. Likewise, a mind that is devoid of the 5 hindrances, that have abandoned the 5 hindrances, can return wholesome thoughts, can retain the wholesome. So that is why throw out the sieve, abandon the 5 hindrances. That is what is meant. When you say throw out the sieve in this riddle, you have to abandon the 5 hindrances. And they keep on digging. So then we come across this person who is digging, the wise person comes across a tortoise. And Buddha says the tortoise is a symbol for the 5 aggregates that are affected by clinging. The form aggregate affected by clinging, the feeling aggregate affected by clinging, the perception aggregate affected by clinging, the formation aggregate affected by clinging, and the consciousness aggregate affected by clinging. So we cling to these things: form, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. To all these 5. Why we do not understand these are conditioned. This form is condition of the 4 elements. Feeling is born of contact. Perception is born of contact. Formation is born of contact. Consciousness is born of name and form. So all of these things are conditioned. When things are conditioned, when the conditions change, they change. So they are impermanent. Feelings, that's why it's always changed. The form, think of your form. Are you the same person that was 5-10 years back? No, you keep changing. That is impermanence. The feelings change every split second. Your perception change every split second. And your thoughts, your intentions change every moment. So is your consciousness. One time your consciousness is in the eye, then the ear, nose, tongue, body, it's always changing. But because of our ignorance, we try to identify a person. You think it's my form, my feeling, my perception, my formation, my consciousness. No, if so, you should be able to exercise control over it. But you cling to these five aggregates unknowingly, thinking me, mine, and myself. So that is the delusion here. So we have to give up this desire for the five aggregates. That is what is meant. Tortoise is here. The tortoise should be cast away, thrown away. That means we have to abandon the desire for the five aggregates. We have to abandon the clinging to the five aggregates. So next Buddha goes on to explain the axe and the block. We came across the person, the digging, the wise person came across an axe and the block. What is the axe and block? Buddha said it is a symbol for the five chords of sensual pleasure. The five chords of sensual pleasure is forms cognizable by the eye that are wished for, desired, agreeable, and likable, connected with sensual desire and provocative of lust. Forms that are seen by the eye, that we wish for, that we desire, that we find agreeable and likable, and they are connected with sensual desire, and also they are provocative of lust. And the same goes for sounds, cognizable by the sounds we hear, the flavors we taste, the tangibles we come across, touch, all the things, the five chords of sensual pleasure, that we five chords of sensual pleasure that makes us, that we desire and like, that arouse lust within us, that rouse the defiance. So these are like the axe and the block. Why think of a meat station? Throughout the day, in the meat station, they cut meat. Every moment, that's what's going on. But at the end of the day, any given moment, what you find is the axe and the block. That's all. The meat is not there. So likewise, all the sensual pleasures we have experienced in life, now it is a thing of the past, isn't it so? Everything, the form, sound, the taste, the tangibles, they are past experiences. But we keep seeking them. And gradually, just like a person working at a meat station, cutting meat on the axe and the block, would gradually grow old and pass away. He doesn't take any of the sense pleasures with him. Likewise, we too would grow old without ever giving up our desire for the sense pleasures, sensual pleasures. That we have to understand. That is why Buddha says, abandon here the desire for the five chords of sensual pleasure. Because this Buddha said, this our desire for the sensual pleasures is sankapparago purisasakamo. Sankapparago means it's a lustful thought that arises in the mind. That means we see a form, a beautiful form, and we keep thinking of. And we keep thinking of that, the gratification of that form, and we get attached to it. And then the sounds that we keep listening, that we find desirable, we keep on thinking on those things, the sounds. We want to hear them again and again. And we get engrossed in those sounds. So that is the Buddha sankapparago. It's the thoughts, the intentions that we cling on to. So Buddha says sankapparago purisasakamo. Nete kama yani chittani loke. In the world we see, there is no sensual pleasures. It is something that arises in the mind. We create this passion in our mind, these lustful thoughts. Buddha says, Tittanti chittani tateva loke. The things in the world, they are the same as they are. That means they are in their normal nature. What is their nature? They are perishable. All the things that we find desirable in this life, the sound, taste, the tangibles, they are all impermanent. Think you see a person, a good person, like say you see a very attractive boy and girl. So you see that form for a fleeting moment. And you get attached to that human form, girl and a boy. And you then keep thinking, and this lust arises within your mind, desire arises. But Chitrani Tatevalogi would say the things of the world, they exist in their normal nature. What is the nature of a body? Over time, it will lose its beauty. Every body grows old. Their hair turns gray. The skin wrinkles. And they lose all their beauty. And one day, they perish and become soil of the earth. So we don't see this process. We see that fleeting moment and we arouse lustful desires within our mind. Think of Arahant. So he served the most delicious food in this world. Would we get attached to that? No. Why? The desire for sensual pleasures is not there. But if we eat something good, we would want to eat it again. We would talk about it. We would try to find out the recipe. We would try to cook that for ourselves. Isn't that our nature? Because we have not given up the desire. We get attached to the thoughts that crop up in our mind because of the cause of sensual pleasure. That is why Buddha said, these are all thoughts, lustful thoughts that arises in the mind. The things of the world, they exist in their true nature. That means they are impermanent. They are subject to suffering and they are non-self. That means you cannot exercise control over them. That is why Buddha said, always think that all the things that I find desirable, I find likable in this world, one day I have to leave them behind. That is the truth. So that is what Buddha said in the Pali. In English, this is how it reads, like, the world's pretty things aren't sensual pleasures. Greedy intention is a person's sensual pleasure. The world's pretty things stay just as they are. But a wise one, removes desire for them. So we have to develop wisdom and we have to remove our desire. In this case, we have to throw away the axe and the block. Give up the desire for sensual pleasure. Because when you attend the first jhana, Buddha says, Vivicheva Kamiti. Give up the desire for sensual pleasures. If you do not give up the desire for the sensual pleasures, if you do not think of the danger of the sensual pleasures, Buddha says you can't attend the first jhana. So you have to understand this is a very important aspect of life, giving up the desire for sensual pleasures. Actually understanding the impermanence of the sensual pleasures and focusing always the danger of the sensual. In your lay life, you live with the sensual pleasures, but you should think of the impermanence of them. You should know by wisdom that one day I should give up my desire for them. One day I leave them behind. You can engage with sensual pleasures, but you should know of their impermanence and contemplate upon them with wisdom. And then the day comes when you have to leave them all behind, you are ready. Because your wisdom has by then grown. So that is how you should understand. So you have to throw out the axe and block and keep on digging. Then you come across a lump of meat. Buddha said the lump of meat is a symbol for delight and lust. Lustful delight is the lump of meat. Think you keep a lump of meat in the open, how many creatures would be drawn to that? Maybe crows, say dogs, even a person might take the lump because it is something that is always things, it attracts people, attracts animals. Likewise, this lustful desire, the things that draws us into the things that we find desirable in this life. That is why we are always craving for things, because this lustful desire. Buddha advice here, give it up, throw away the lump of meat. As long as we crave, there is going to be suffering. Craving is the cause of suffering. So lustful desire is going to make you suffer. So you have to understand, if there are 100 things in this world that you desire, you love, there are 100 things that is going to cause you suffering. If there are 10 things in this world that you desire and love, there are 10 things that is going to cause you suffering. If there is none in this world that you love and desire, then there is no suffering, like for the Arahants. because they have given up craving, the love, the desire for everything in this world by understanding the true nature, or else you cannot give up the desire. So then, once you throw away the lump of meat and keep on digging, the wise person comes across the Naga serpent. So the Naga serpent is a symbol for a bhikkhu who has destroyed the claims, the arahants, who has completely abandoned the desire and realized the Four Noble Truth. That is the Naga serpent. So leave the Naga serpent. Do not harm the Naga serpent. Honor the Naga serpent. This is the meaning, say the Buddha. So the arahants we should respect. They are the ones who actually practice the path shown by the Buddha. They put out the fire in the ant-hill. They understood the true nature of the ant-hill. And they got rid of all these things. They got rid of the doba, which is ignorance. They got rid of, what is the next thing? The thought, that is anger. They got rid of the fork road, that is doubt. They got rid of, what's next? The tortoise, which is the five aggregate of thinking. They got rid, no, the sieve, no? They got rid of the sieve, which is the five hindrances. Then they got rid of the five aggregates of thinking, which is the tortoise. Then they got rid of the axe and the block, which is the desire for sensual pleasures. Then they got rid of the lump of meat, that is lustful desire. We in Pali we say Nandiraga. And they became the Naga serpent themselves by realizing the Four Noble Truths, giving up craving. They actually put out the fire. So they are no longer fuming by night and flaming by day like our lives. So when you are angry, when your mind gets overcome by lustful thoughts, think of the ant-hill that is fuming by night and flaming by day. So you will be able to put these things today that we learn into practice. Remember, light and darkness, they don't exist together. Think of a room that is sealed, but there is one light bulb, and you go into the room. So if it is sealed, then with no light coming in, then it is total darkness. And you switch the bulb on. So then there is light. You switch it off again, then there is darkness. So likewise, the wholesome and the unwholesome, they do not exist together. You have to replace the unwholesome with the wholesome. Once you do that, then that is what it means to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. So we have to replace the unwholesome thoughts that are within us with the wholesome. That is why we learn the suttas and we try to incorporate them into our daily lives. So this sutta, the Vammika Sutta about the ant-hill, this also helps us. Buddha shows us how we should do this in a methodical manner and what are the things that we should focus upon. So all these aspects we discussed together, there are different suttas that we can learn about five aggregates of thinking in detail, the five hindrances in detail, the Nandiraga, the lustful desire in detail. So these things we can discuss in future Dhamma sermons, Dhamma talks, so we can gradually improve our Dhamma knowledge and try to make use of this Dhamma so we can also put out the fire in our life and achieve peace and calm. So may you all have the good fortune to do that and realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.